Welcome back to I'm Not Gonna Lie. I'm your host, Ashley, and this is season 4. Again, I cannot believe we're on season 4. A season rooted in movement, healing, and trusting the process, even when nothing feels settled yet. That's kind of the vibe that I'm going for this season. But today's episode, it's a little story time. It's a longer one than usual. I'm finally sharing the full journey of our move to Germany. Not just the logistics, but the emotions, the stress, the growth, and the spiritual shifts that came with it. This move wasn't just about changing locations. It was about surrendering, resilience, and stepping into a new chapter before I felt fully ready. This episode is broken into parts, so you can really feel the progression from finding out we were moving to the chaos of getting here to settling in and what this transition has meant for me mentally, spiritually, and energetically. If you enjoy this episode, make sure you like and subscribe, please. Follow the podcast and share it with someone navigating change. You can listen on Spotify, Apple, and Google Podcasts, and now you can watch on YouTube, which feels like a whole new era for me. So let's get right into it. When we found out we were moving, it was back in October. And at this point in our lives, Shane had been applying for jobs overseas for about a year and a half, but it was very casual. Honestly, it was almost for fun, for shits and giggles, okay? We weren't desperate to leave Florida. We actually loved living there. The mindset was always if it happens, it happens. But looking back now, I really and truly believe we manifested this move. Here's how it happened. Shane had 2 interviews for positions in Germany. 2. Both came back with interest, but one of them was clearly the better fit financially, logistically, energetically. And once that offer came in, it wasn't even a debate. From the interview to job offer to decision, everything happened within a matter of days, not weeks, literally days. And I remember him walking into the room and saying, "They offered it. What should I do?" And I looked at him and I said, "Babe, what the hell are you talking about? We're taking it." Like there was no ands, ifs, or buts. There was no hesitation. What's wild is that I can go back in my journals, literally probably a year or 2 back, and see where I wrote, "We're moving overseas," over and over and over again. I do tarot for myself daily, and there's an entry from almost to the date exact where I wrote something like, "If your husband gets a job overseas, you need to go with him. This will bring expansion, blah, 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 blah." Once I find that and I feel like sharing, I'll probably post it just to share. So when it happened mentally, I have proof of that. I wrote it, I pulled the cards, I sat with that truth long before it became reality. So when it happened, mentally, I was shocked, like, whoa, this is real. This is happening now. And also like, whoa, like I really saw this. I really wrote this into existence. But emotionally, I was happy. I was excited, over the moon, ecstatic. Because if you know us, you know we've always said Florida would be the last place we lived in the United States. Before moving overseas, we spoke that out loud for years. So when the job aligned, the money aligned, the location aligned, it felt like divine timing clicking into place. Even though everything moved fast, nothing felt forced. At the same time, the questions started coming in immediately. Our kid, stability, identity, routine, all of that is about to change. But interestingly enough, fear wasn't the loudest emotion. Our brains went straight into logistics mode. We're used to moving. So it was like, okay, pack the house, organize the timeline, let's start getting things done. Then after that, it came telling our families. And that was hard. We only told family, not necessarily friends. And that was intentional because sometimes people project their doubts and fears onto your own opportunities, whether they mean to or not. And we wanted to protect this move while it was still fragile and forming. And besides, the reactions were very mixed, which was a good choice for us. Some siblings were very supportive, some were, but kind of just like confused on why. And because we're a close knit family, that created distance. There were weeks where we weren't talking, and that hurt deeply. Okay. Trying to process a massive life transition while also navigating emotional disconnect from people you love is very heavy. I won't sugarcoat that. It was probably one of the hardest parts emotionally, and I'm still unpacking from whatever that tower moment was and why it happened. Okay. But when it came down to the decision itself, it was quick. We knew we were ready to move. We talked to our son, the next day after school. We explained it to him simply. He's 4 years old. And he said, "Yes, mom and dad, let's go." And he asked for those Germany tickets for 3 weeks. He was like, "Did we get the tickets? Did we get the tickets? Did we get the tickets?" Like he was more excited than probably than any of us. And that really just sealed the deal. And so for me, there were so many like intuitive confirmations. We had vision boarded this, journaled it, spoken it, prayed on it. Like I said, pulled cards on it. And then one day for it just to arrive fast, aligned, undeniable. Like it just was crazy how aligned this move what is and was and is. I didn't feel unprepared. I just felt like life hit the fast forward button. And when I think about season 4 and what this season represents, rebirth, movement, and stepping into new timelines, this moment was the beginning of all of it. Because to me, rebirth doesn't always come gently. Sometimes it comes quickly and asks you to trust yourself. And the affirmation I kept repeating to myself during this time was, I trust the timing of my life. I trust my decisions. I trust that what's meant for me will meet me where I am. I didn't need to have every detail figured out. I just needed to say yes. And once we said yes, everything moved fast. Once we said yes to the move, everything sped up. We had about 3.5 weeks from when we took the job to getting on a plane. That was pretty much it. 3.5 weeks to dismantle an entire life and routine. And in that time, I had to break our lease, which, by the way, these property management companies, apartments, it's a scam. They wanted an absolutely insane amount of money for a termination fee. It was so offensive, truly disrespectful, but whatever. We're going to move on from that. We had to disenroll our son from school. We had to pack up a 3-bedroom apartment, knowing full well that we weren't shipping anything overseas. So, no furniture, no big items, just what we could carry and what we could store. And we were not buying a ridiculous big storage. We've got one of the smallest storages they had. And if it didn't fit in there, it wasn't coming. So that was stressful. And all of that was happening, while life kept lifing. Shane still had to go to work every day. I still was running my business. I was still making content, all of that jazz. We were still parenting, still showing up, still doing normal daily routines while also trying to decide what parts of our life fit into boxes and what didn't. The chaos really did hit though when we realized we were doing everything ourselves, to finding storage, selling things, donating things, deciding what stays, what goes. and what matters. At the same time, we were also trying to find a house in Germany from Florida. So there's a time difference, there's different systems, there's different expectations and different rules and payments. And it was very chaotic, but we handled it with grace. And to be honest, his job actually, who wanted Shane there the week after, he accepted the job. And I said, absolutely not. That's not realistic. We need time. And it kind of was one of those things where Shane was just like, we're going together. There is no, I go first, find a house, and then you come. Like, it was just easier for all of us just to do it all at once together, because that's just how we are. And even then, and even though that was our decision, it still felt a little rushed. Fortunately, things did get heavy for me because, like I said earlier, when we were telling our family, there was this little feeling of disconnect. And there was this part where it really showed up. And I do want to be honest about this. So I'm the oldest of about, I think I have like 8 siblings. I don't know, 8 or 10. I can't keep up, but I am the oldest, okay? And I carry that responsibility very deeply inside. I've always felt this obligation to be the strong one, the present one, the dependable one. And the idea of being so far away from my siblings, it really did hurt. And I was trying to deal with those emotions on the inside. I was trying to keep that separate from the emotions I was feeling from just packing, and the stress that packing caused. And I started attacking myself mentally for things that I couldn't control, telling myself I wasn't doing enough, that I was abandoning people, that I was choosing opportunity over obligation, all while trying to stay excited, all while trying to stay present, and all while knowing this was a once in a lifetime opportunity. That tension, that broke me like wide open, okay? And honestly, it brought Shane and me closer. It's like we unlocked a newer level in our marriage. He always has known me as like very strong, fearless, and capable, right? And also a very positive person. Like he sees me as this very positive little like love and light type thing until I'm not. So he just rather sees that. But during that time, he saw me very vulnerable. He saw me cry a lot. He saw me grieving people and places before we had even left. I didn't really have anyone to call or text about the move. I was pretty much doing it quietly. I didn't post about it. I didn't talk about it. Silently just holding it all together because I had to, and I really didn't want any outside negative energy to really just take over this move and this process from me and from my boys. And it felt like it was just me and the boys. And for about 3 weeks, that's just what it was. We were doing this thing quietly. Toward the very end, my stepmom, shout out, stepped in, and she is amazing. She's God sent, and I'm so grateful for her because every move that I have done in the last 10 years, because we started in 2017, every move, my mom has been there. She has stopped what she's doing. She comes to help pack, clean. When we moved to Florida, she even came down to Florida to help me unpack and just kind of get settled in. But she lives in Japan and she couldn't help me this time. So my second mom filled that gap. And she helped us finish packing. She took things off my hands. She helped get everything into storage literally in 24 hours. She came for 24 hours. I cannot repay her for that because it was so amazing just to have a mother figure helping us do this. Also, while, being present and keeping Hendrix entertained. So Shane and I could also do other things as well, get other things situated. It was amazing because like 4 days later, we were on a plane. Now, let's talk about the flight. Shane's job booked it about 48 hours before we left. And someone with OCD, I was biting my tongue. I was literally like just sweating bullets. But that didn't surprise me at all because I expected it to be last minute. It was a very long flight. It was about 12 hours, 10 hours to Amsterdam, and then a short flight from Amsterdam to Stuttgart. But honestly, it was smooth, it was easy. It was overnight, which I highly recommend if you're ever flying internationally. Do the overnight flight, watch a movie, have a drink, and then pass out because that's exactly what I did. I watched Titanic, had me like two little glasses of wine, and then I was out. Okay. Woke up, I was in Amsterdam. We didn't miss any connections. Everything just worked out. When we landed, it was the week before Thanksgiving. And that's when the next layer of chaos and emotions just showed up. We were supposed to move into our house almost immediately. It was listed as soon as possible, but our landlord unfortunately was in Italy and he was like, it's not going to be ready for another week. So we said, okay, cool. We stayed in a hotel for 2 weeks with the toddler in one room, one bed, no separation, no kitchen, no routine, just the cupids and our vibes. We ate a lot of McDonald's, a lot of hotel bar food and drinks, a lot of we'll figure it out tomorrow type energy is pretty much all we could muster up for about 2 weeks. Reality hit immediately. We landed, and the next day, Shane went to work. Life didn't pause, but we gave ourselves, grace, and we still found ways to make it work for us. But it was like, okay, yeah, we just literally hopped off a plane and immediately we stepped into real life. And then Thanksgiving came and it was quiet. We were very grateful, obviously, but it was also very sad, if I'm just being honest. It was not it wasn't a good Thanksgiving for me, like at all. I didn't eat much. I had a bottle of wine. I read a book and we made it special for Hendrix, pizza, took him to go see some trains and explore it outside of the hotel. But once he went to sleep, I remember just sitting there thinking, wow, I'm really sad. All of the emotions of the move, it hit all at once. The excitement, the loneliness, the exhaustion, the grief. I realized that, for especially the last 4 to 5 years, I had hosted Thanksgiving. I've always been with my family for Thanksgiving. And so to not be in that environment and not have that energy around me definitely was hard and it was triggering. But 2 days later, something very beautiful happened and worked out. One of Shane's coworkers and his wife invited us and a few other new people who had moved over for Thanksgiving dinner. They had lived in Germany for about 10 years and they knew a lot of people were in hotels or Airbnbs and didn't have Thanksgiving. They made an entire Thanksgiving feast, and I mean everything. The food was incredible. The company was warm. Conversations were needed and fun and educational. It just kind of felt like a redo, like the universe was saying, I see you. Here's a little something to kind of just put a smile on your face as you continue to adjust, is how I took it. And from that point on, we started just having these small wins. It kind of just turned around the energy. We were driving around more. We were exploring the malls. We were buying little things for the house here and there. For the hotel itself, I did pack a few Christmas items. I had a jingle bell door handle. I had candles and blankets and just little tiny pieces of the house that I wanted to make sure we had in the hotel, even though I was still ready to go. Okay. But those small comforts mattered more than I expected. And through all of it, the tears, the chaos, the exhaustion, we never once regretted the move. It wasn't regret. It was just adjustment. And we realized that life doesn't pause and we needed to give ourselves grace. And even then, in the instability, we found joy, we found laughter, found bonding moments. And that's the thing about big transitions, they stretch you, but they also show you what you are made of. And slowly we started settling in. Moving into our home happened on a Saturday. We're renting this place. It's a short term rental, so we're going to have to move again at some point, which is totally fine because we believed that we just needed a place for like 6 to 8 months so we can figure out what neighborhood we liked, where we wanted to stay, and kind of get used to that. And also, if you don't know, Germany, everything is closed on Sunday. So moving on a Saturday was like, okay, not only do we have to move, we also need to go grocery shopping and get stuff in for another day and so that we can be comfortable. And That's pretty much what it was. It was move in and prepare. So we moved in, we got groceries, we made sure the house was stocked enough. And it was surprisingly easy though, because like I said, we just had suitcases. So it was just bringing the suitcases in the house. Nothing too crazy. It's a completely furnished home, which was great. Like everything is furnished, down to dishes, towels. And as obviously we were going to add things as we go, like our own towels, our own sheets and bedding, all that jazz. But to just be able to move in and have everything ready to go, have everything accessible for you was actually 10 out of 10. Now, we did ship our car. So we packed the car up with some of our like familiar decor house items that really just remind us of home. And so when that gets here, we'll be able to add that to the house. My first impression of the area was instant comfort, okay? It honestly reminds me of the little town that Belle is from and Beauty and the Beast. I know that's technically France, but that cozy storybook energy, it's here. It's right here. We can walk everywhere. It's like two different big grocery stores, mom and pop restaurants and grills, pizzerias, there's a library, there's a little dentist, a pharmacy, a little lotto and liquor shop. Everything we need is within a 2 to 5 minute walk. And I absolutely love that. The neighborhood is quiet, the neighbors are kind, our landlord is genuinely nice, and the house itself is so spacious. I am definitely planning to do a house tour, probably once Hendrix is back in school from winter break and I've had time to add a little bit more of my touches and make it feel more homey for us. Now, let's get back and talk about the grocery shopping because that's been probably one of the biggest adjustments for me. I'm a list girl. I like to go in, get what I need, and get out. That's not really how it works here. Shopping here is more frequent. It's like every 2 to 3 days, okay? Because it's quality over quantity. You are not about to buy a giant pack of chicken here. You don't get a huge jug of milk. Eggs come in a very small carton. Everything is just very intentional, even when it comes to grocery shopping here. At first, it felt inconvenient, but now looking at it, I actually like it. The bread is fresh daily. The produce tastes different, lighter, cleaner, fresher, honestly. There are fewer preservatives in almost everything. The butcher shop is incredible, and that's pretty much where we buy all of our meat. Going grocery shopping, it gives me a reason though to get out of the house right now and to continue to learn the area and to slowly build a routine. And honestly, Sundays have become so sacred for us now. We love everything is closed. Completely 10 out of 10, you guys. Since everything is closed, we get to stay home, we rest, I cook, we relax, we just are. And after about a month of doing this, I can say it's the peace and clarity of staying home and resting on a Sunday that I don't think people even realize that they need. Seriously. Life here is slower, it's quieter. You don't hear sirens. You don't hear loud music everywhere. People walk, they exist. They're just taking their time. They're very slow and intentional. And coming from Orlando, which is a very tourist heavy, fast paced city, and even living in Tampa for a little bit, this has been just a huge shift. And we're learning how to exist instead of rushing. And that obviously is an adjustment, especially, for Shane, because he is a mover, he's a doer, a go, go, go kind of person. But even he's starting to slow down and to be present and to welcome that stillness instead of resisting it. So I believe that this move, it just truly feels aligned for so many reasons. And I'm going to always say that. And one of the biggest ones is learning that life doesn't always have to be fast to be meaningful. And while we were settling into our home, something else that was very important was also happening at the same time, which was getting our son settled back into school. So, a lot of people had questions about schooling and Hendrix. Getting Hendrix into school was actually a lot easier than I expected. Before we had even left the States, I was already Googling maps, schools in the area of where we were going to be. I was looking at distance because I don't like to be too far from a school. I was looking at the neighborhood around it, everything like that. We found a private bilingual academy and I fell in love with it almost immediately. They teach 1 week in German and 1 week in English. His German teachers speak to him in German all the time, and his English teachers will speak to him in English. So it's a full immersion, but in a really gentle way. And one thing I appreciated so much was their adjustments model. They dedicate an entire week to helping kids and parents transition. You come in for about an hour a day at different times so the child can slowly get used to the environment, the classroom, and the teachers. And honestly, Hendrix didn't need me for long. The first day, he did amazing. By the second day, they had me drop him off and leave. He stayed for, about an hour, and I just walked to like the nearby coffee shop, and we did that until the week was up. And by the end of the week, he was comfortable, he was confident, he was really excited, and he loves it. And I love it. There's so many little cultural difference that I didn't expect, but really appreciate. They don't wear outdoor shoes inside the school. Kids have house shoes that they leave at school. They have toothbrushes because they brush their teeth after every meal. Focus on social skills, creativity, and emotional development on top of curriculum. Their extracurriculars like ballet, CrossFit, or piano, that stuff happened during school hours. You pay extra, but it's built into that day, which means no rushing after work, no bouncing from activity to activity, no overstimulation for the parent or the child. You get to go pick up your child, go home, and actually spend time together, right? Right. That alone just feels so revolutionary. Like, I feel like America's so behind on that. Like, ugh. But I was nervous because Hendrix had been out of school for about 3 weeks during the move. I worried about regression, I worried about adjustment, but as always, he surprised me, like kids always do. He made friends within the first week. His teachers have nothing but amazing things to say. And he's definitely just thriving. Just thriving. And honestly, nothing warms my heart more and takes the load off of the parents when your child can just adjust and feels completely safe and seen and heard at their brand new school. So I was like, okay, perfect. Tuition here is a little bit cheaper. I think it also just depends, but his tuition is completely covered through Shane's job, which we are incredibly grateful for. He's getting an amazing education, learning a new language, and showing us just how resilient he is. And watching him adjust has taught me a lot, especially about letting go of those rigid expectations around education. Because here they value raising good humans first, creativity first, emotional intelligence first. The academics build as they grow. And I actually love that. At home, we still teach him every day, reading flashcards, learning through play, because as parents, we believe education, it doesn't stop at school. But this system has shown me that learning doesn't have to be rushed either to be effective. If you're thinking about moving overseas with kids, my biggest advice is this: take your time, go in with an open heart, expect things to be different, and let that be okay. We're taking this day by day. We're watching him flourish, watching ourselves adjust. And honestly, this routine, imperfect, evolving, and slow, feels like exactly what we needed without us even honestly knowing that we needed that. This move changed me. And again, not in a very loud way, just in a very quiet, grounding, deeply spiritual way. Spiritually, I feel more aligned than I have in the last few months. And I believe the universe does that when you're getting ready to shift into a different timeline. And I think a big part of that is because for me, no one here knows me. So there's no expectations, there's no labels, there's no old versions of me being projected back into who I'm becoming. And I don't know anything out here. So there's no expectations of me knowing everything around me. I just get to be. I get to wake up and do things differently every single day. And I get to hold space for curiosity, for connection, without needing to explain myself or perform, who I used to be or keep up, if any of that makes sense. And in that space, I've been letting go, okay? I'm letting go of old identities, old patterns, old fears that didn't even belong to me anymore. This move required faith, like real faith, and it required practice. I had to practice my faith. I had to believe in my faith. And I wanted to become a bigger risk taker. I wanted to trust myself more. I wanted to move with intuition instead of hesitation. And this move demanded all of that from me immediately because there was no comfort zone here. There was no safety net. There was only trust. And every time I chose trust, something aligned. Spiritually, I feel like I'm being positioned, not rushed, not forced, but placed where I need to be for what's coming next. More clarity, more creativity, more advice and stories to tell, more content that feels honest and inspired instead of just recycled and already heard of. I don't exactly know what opportunities will come from this. And I actually love that. It feels expansive. It feels very open. And when I look ahead to 2026, the year of the horse, that symbolism hits even deeper. In Chinese astrology, the horse represents movement, momentum, courage, independence, and taking bold action. Okay, it's the year that rewards people who are willing to move forward, not recklessly, but confidently. For Geminis, especially, 2026 is about expansion through experience. So that is new environments, new conversations, new networks, new ways of thinking. It's about saying yes to movement, physical, mental, and spiritual, and trusting that adaptability is your superpower. And when I think about that, I believe that this move was like preparation for me for 2026. Like the universe was quietly saying, get ready, get ready. And I'm ready, okay? This chapter brings clarity. It's going to bring travel for me. It's bringing creativity and expansion. And it's going to bring the kind of growth that I wouldn't get anywhere else, really. But it's the growth that you don't get by just staying where you're comfortable. And I truly give thanks to the universe, to my ancestors, and to every version of myself that believed this life was possible before it was even visible. I'll say it again. This was a very divine move, a necessary move, and it was a move that was made with love, faith, and trust. Before I go, I do want to say thank you guys truly for just tuning in and listening. Thank you for being here. Thank you for holding space for just me to get on here and yap, okay? This is a season of change, and this podcast has always been about wellness, spirituality, and lifestyle travel. And this chapter of our lives touches all of those in a very real way. If this episode resonated with you, please take a moment to check in with yourself. Ask yourself, where are you being called to move, to grow, or to trust a little deeper? You don't have to have all of the answers. Sometimes alignment begins with just awareness. All right? Remember that. So give yourself some grace. Next week, it'll also be the new year. We are continuing this conversation by talking about what it really takes to reinvent your life, the courage to shift your work, your family dynamics, and your sense of purpose when that old version is no longer fitting. And I think that's going to be perfect for bringing in 2026 because it's going to be about choosing evolution over familiar and honoring who you are becoming. So you're not going to want to miss it. Thank you so much for listening. Thank you for supporting and being a part of this journey with me. If you want more, you can follow me over on Instagram and TikTok at Moments with Ashley. I will have that link below in the description. Please share this podcast with family and friends. It's free to support and share. You can listen on Google, Apple, Spotify, and on YouTube. Thank you guys so much, and I will talk with you guys next week. Happy New Year's. Bye.